Timeline. Timeline is the core to animation. So let's look at it first. It's a very basic introduction to what is below here and how it works. So I'll put it in perspective. Let's say I have a short film, okay? And we'll put a time on there. We'll say the short film is 500 seconds long, which is weird, right? 500 seconds. We'll think of 500 seconds for a second. I'm going to take this and stretch it out. Now I have my entire 500 seconds showing. But let's say I wanted to work not on the entire video all at once. Let's say I wanted to work on the first 30 seconds. Well, I can go over here and drag this over. And notice it disappears because I don't have enough screen resolution. So what I'm going to go over here is type in 30. Now, 1 through 30 seconds is showing. So you can think of this as your zoom tool. You can zoom out and see the entire animation, or you can zoom into a section of animation and look at the keyframes. The advantage to this is, see this box right here? See how big it is? Now, I'm just going to hit S on the keyboard. Well, I have to add something. Let's put a ball in there and hit S. Notice how big that is. How easy it is to kind of see. Well, as I zoom out, you can now see that it's really hard to figure out where, if I'm on this little red line. Am I on that little red line? I have no idea. But if I zoom in, I can really tell if I'm on that little red line or not. So again, this is your zoom tool. Think of it that way. All right, time. Let's look at time. So what are 500 of whatever these are? Well, let's click over here on the little running guy. Incidentally, if you need to get into this menu, you can also get into it by going to Window, Settings and Preferences, and go to Preferences. And if you page down to Animation, you can see that there is the same thing under Time Slider. All right, well, here we have playback speed. Notice there is play every frame, real time, half, twice, and other. And some people will say 60 frames per second, or 30 frames per second, or 29 frames per second. It's important to know that 29 or 30 or 40 or 50 frames per second, what you really have to know that's important is whatever you're using the animation for. Let's say you were using it for cinema, okay? In cinema, it's going to be 24 frames per second. Are you going to use it for NTSC? Well, that's 30 frames per second. You want to match that up. So if you're animating some 3D thing and you're going to put it in a 2D environment, you have to match whatever it's going to be, 24 or 30. If you're going to do it for video games, well, it's an arbitrary statement to say the time, because really it's ticks in that case, and all game engines are a little bit different. So to say every game engine functions at 30 frames per second is really kind of bad to say, because every video game runs at a different frame per second, depending upon the lag that occurs on any machine. So yeah, I like to play back on every frame. Okay, that's just me. That's just my spiel. I'm going to hit save. So as far as like frames per second, they're really not important to me too much. And I know that's kind of hurtful, and I probably get hazed a little bit for that. But again, that's what's in my world. Frames per second are a little out the door. What we're going to do is now look at this at a very basic standpoint and understand keys. So we have the ability to change things within the time slider. We understand that this is a zoom of some nature. And this is your start and end point to your larger idea, and this is your start and point to your smaller idea. Let's go into keyframes next.